Because of the earlier football coverage, our advertised programme After They Were Famous will now be shown at a later date. The time now is 11 o'clock.
Wide-ranging Queen's speech outlines a transport revolution. High drama to Scotland almost stop England reaching Euro 2000. Livingston's dirty tricks allegations in the race to be mayor. And wish upon a shooting star how you can see tonight's Light Fantastic.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Murnaghan.
Good evening. The Queen unveiled the heaviest programme of legislation yet proposed by the current government in today's ceremonial state opening of Parliament. Amid the traditional pageantry and splendour, she announced a total of 28 bills the government aims to put through in the next parliamentary session. They affect all areas of life, with new measures to fight crime, along with radical moves to reform public and private transport. Our political editor, Michael Brunson, reports.
Tonight, at the start of another parliamentary year, Tony Blair is back in Downing Street, expecting Parliament to tackle one of the biggest workloads, at least 28 bills, that they've ever been asked to undertake. Earlier, the Queen had set out the details. The ceremony may not change from year to year, but the political content of the speech she reads out seems to increase. This year, in what may be the last full session of Parliament before an election in 18 months' time, it read in part like a Labour Party press release.
My government are helping people back into work. The New Deal has helped 145,000 young people into employment.
There followed plans for at least 28 different measures, amongst them the Transport Bill. This will tackle traffic congestion in towns and bolster rail safety. The Crime Bill. This will focus on drug abuse, with mandatory drug testing for offenders and an extension of electronic tagging. The Welfare Reform Bill. It intends to overhaul the Child Support Agency and introduce new pension schemes. Among other bills, the Race Relations Bill, which follows on from the Stephen Lawrence case, the Local Government Bill, which will extend the idea of directly elected mayors, and there's a bill to end fur farming. In the Commons later, William Hague said the speech suggested that it would be another year in which the government's promises weren't delivered, and he mocked the campaign John Prescott will lead to restrict motorists' freedoms to drive a car.
They don't want to be told they can't drive it by a Deputy Prime Minister whose idea of a park and ride scheme is to park one Jaguar in order to ride away in the other.
In an effective speech, Mr Hague made good use of such sarcastic humour, which Tony Blair, trumpeting today's employment figures, did not appreciate.
Since last year, unemployment has fallen by 120,000. Employment has risen by 329,000. That is the difference between good jokes and good judgment.
The Liberal Democrats leader also said the government wasn't delivering on its promises, and he added,
a lot of the instincts of the government are good, but I think that those instincts are in fact suffering as a result of the timidity of the government.
But with such a huge programme ahead, which may yet hinder progress on any fox hunting bill, the government says it's being anything but timid. Michael Brunson, ITN, Westminster.
So with John Prescott's Transport Bill emerging at the centre of the government's planned legislation, what could it mean for how we all get around? ITN's John Draper has been looking at the implications for public and private travel.
Rush hour traffic clogging the streets tonight, just as it will tomorrow morning. The new bill is aimed at freeing up town and city centres. Local councils will be given the power to charge cars to enter busy areas, and they'll be allowed to make motorists pay for parking at work. There could also be charges for some trunk roads and tunnels. But the plan is also to introduce more regulation of privatised bus operations to improve services, and bring in a strategic rail authority to make train companies more accountable. Safety will be given a higher priority, especially after the Paddington train crash. But will the extra money raised from councils charging to use roads be automatically ploughed into public transport?
The worry is if councils rush to introduce congestion charging or workplace parking before public transport is improved, then it could become a poll tax on wheels.
The new measures won't come in overnight. The bill has to be passed and local authorities have to set up the schemes. But ministers believe eventually the drivers will be persuaded to get out of their cars and use alternative forms of transport. John Draper, ITN, Central London.
The IRA today pledged to nominate a go-between to discuss getting rid of terrorist weapons. The move is being hailed as another milestone towards cementing the peace process. The timing of the talks remains an issue. The IRA says they won't happen until after the setting up of a power-sharing executive. But despite that, the Ulster Unionists described the development as highly significant. England are through to Euro 2000. They sealed their place tonight, but only after a big scare, as Scotland went ahead early on in the return playoff at Wembley. Immediately after the match, Kevin Keegan declared it had been a rocky road, but they got there in the end, and he promised his team will get better. Graham Miller reports.
The kick-off at Wembley was delayed because of problems on the trains. Nothing, though, was going to spoil the night for these fans, whatever difficulties they had in getting to Wembley. England began as clear favourites to qualify, Scotland without doubt as underdogs. Both captains looked very serious as they led their teams out into the cold Wembley night, although Kevin Keegan still managed to smile. He wanted to hear a pin drop during the Scottish national anthem, but after the Scots drowned God Save the Queen on Saturday, Flower of Scotland wilted beneath the whistles. England's 2-goal hero at Hampden was Paul Scholes. Now, if this had gone in, the tie would have been over. Scotland needed an early goal to give them hope. Barry Ferguson's header piled on the pressure. Scotland were playing much the better football. Billy Dodds was simply unlucky. So, no surprise when 6 minutes before half-time, Scotland scored. Don Hutchison got the header. It meant Scotland needed just one more goal to square the tie. Craig Brown and the whole of Scotland knew the score. The second half began cautiously with so much at stake. Suddenly Alan Shearer had space. Did he not like that? England had more chances to ease the nation's nerves, but they barely got a shot on target. It was a poor England performance. Scotland were unlucky, but with David Seaman on this form, Kevin Keegan enjoyed a charmed night, albeit his first England defeat. He was full of emotion for his Scottish counterpart at the end, but he knows there's still much work to be done.
So England are through to the last 16 of the European Championships. They'll take their place in next summer's finals, but Scotland could not have run them any closer.
The Scottish fans were magnificent all night, with not a hint of trouble inside the ground.
World class. I mean, that was the last game at Wembley, as Wembley's known, and it was just fantastic that Scotland was able to beat England.
England deserved to win the first game, but not tonight. Scotland should have gone through, I thought.
On this performance, the other qualified nations will be rubbing their hands with glee. Graham Miller, ITN Sport, Wembley.
Well, in Scotland, fans converged on pubs and bars to watch tonight's clash, hoping they may yet snatch victory. But as that dream turned into disappointment, they stayed right behind their team to the very end. From Glasgow, Howell Jones reports.
That was the sound of Scotland celebrating tonight as the only goal of the match went in. Here in Glasgow and elsewhere, this game didn't seem to be about Europe, but about settling a score with England.
More than proud, outstanding. Proud to be a Scotsman. It's a great pity I'm not wearing my kilt tonight.
First victory at Wembley for 22 years.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, fantastic. They scored at Wembley, excellent, but in the big scheme of things, it's not enough to go through.
After that first goal, they waited and waited for a second. Plenty of Scots' passion, but in the end they had to make do with salvaging some pride. Before the match, even Scottish bookmakers seemed to discount the possibility of a victory. This fan was one of the very few to bet on a win at Wembley. Scotland won the first match against England this century way back in April 1900. Tonight they won the century's very last match against the old enemy. And in the end, that was good enough for some. Howell Jones, ITN, Glasgow.
And in another playoff tonight, Turkey drew 0-0 with Ireland at home in Bursa. That means the score is 1-1 on aggregate, so Turkey go through on away goals. President Yeltsin today defended Russia's bombardment of Chechnya, declaring they're engaged in a legitimate fight against terrorists. Our Moscow correspondent Mark Webster reports now from the Chechen border.
By tonight, only a trickle of refugees had crossed into the safety of Ingushetia in the past 24 hours. The flood has already come through here to the overcrowded refugee camps. Inside Chechnya, it leaves only the old and the infirm, cowering in cellars from Russian bombs. And the smoke rising from a Chechen village is more evidence of the indiscriminate nature of Russian attacks. Right from the start of this conflict, Western correspondents have been barred from going beyond this border to see for themselves what's happening inside Chechnya. In like manner, Western leaders will be told to keep their noses out of what Moscow considers its own business, and that they shouldn't worry, because Moscow will say they're only targeting rebel strongholds, not civilians. Yet this ward is full of the latest casualties from Chechnya. Among them is 28-year-old Asset, who, the Chechens say, was shot along with her 2 children by a Russian soldier. An eyewitness described to me what happened. Suddenly the soldiers started shooting. The family jumped out of the car and pleaded, "Don't shoot, don't shoot. There are only women and children here." Asset's 2-year-old son has tonight had surgery for his wounds. Doctors say the next few hours will be crucial. Mark Webster, ITN, on the Chechen border.
5 days since Turkey's second major earthquake, rescue teams have pulled a woman out alive from beneath the rubble of her home. She'd been trapped in freezing conditions. In an amazing coincidence, she turned out to be the aunt of one of those who helped to free her. Here, Ken Livingston will tomorrow reappear before the Labour Selection Board, wrestling with the shortlist for Mayor of London. Today he offered an olive branch to the Labour leadership, saying he would stand by their manifesto. But he also complained of dirty politics. Here's Lauren Taylor.
The atmosphere of chaos surrounding Labour's attempt to select candidates for the London Mayor continued today, with claims and counterclaims deepening the confusion over Ken Livingston's chances. After yesterday's delays, today there seemed to be dirty tricks too. Mr Livingston said extracts from his selection interview had been leaked to try to discredit him.
I'd be quite happy, and I've nothing to hide, if they published the entire transcript of my cross-examination. But to take edited highlights, a sentence here and a sentence there, and leak them to selected journalists is really dirty politics.
Officially, Labour deplored the leaks, but insisted he would have to stand on the agreed manifesto to get on the shortlist.
If he wants to be the Labour candidate, whether you're the leader, the deputy leader, the European member, you sign up for a manifesto. Otherwise, this kind of pick and mix approach is totally unacceptable.
In a further twist, Frank Dobson, Labour's favoured candidate, was reported to have threatened to withdraw if Ken Livingston were blocked. Labour privately admitted that would cause even more trouble. Tonight, Ken Livingston seemed to be offering a way out, saying he would stand on the manifesto, but he still opposes the party's plans for the tube. Tomorrow, the selection panel will once again interview Ken Livingston here. The question then will be whether his latest position will be enough to convince them to take the risk of including him on the Labour shortlist. Lauren Taylor, ITN, at Labour headquarters.
Now, if you find yourself unable to sleep tonight, astronomers say it's well worth keeping an eye on the sky. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, they're expecting a quite brilliant display of shooting stars, the best over Britain in more than 30 years. Here's Lawrence McGinty.
Leaving their telescopes behind because they won't need them, young astronomers from Greenwich tonight preparing to watch a rare celestial display, a shower of meteors of shooting stars.
And we'll track them, and hopefully we'll get to see it. We'll get to see a grand show tonight.
Meteors come from the dust thrown off by comets. In this case, one called Temple Tuttle. The Earth passes through its tail every 33 years. It will enter the meteor shower in about 3 hours' time, and for 2 hours we'll witness the heaven's own firework display, peaking just after 2 o'clock with a shooting star almost every second. This is what they looked like 33 years ago, the last spectacular Leonid shower. Astronomers say weather conditions for watching will be good tonight over most of the country.
I've never seen a really good meteor display of this nature. In fact, there had not been one since 1966. Therefore, I'm hoping for a good shower. I'll certainly be on watch myself.
To see the Leonids, all you have to do is get away from the bright lights of the city, look northeast, and enjoy the show. Lawrence McGinty, ITN.
And the headlines again. The Queen has unveiled the heaviest legislative programme yet proposed by the current government, 28 bills in all. And England tonight scraped through to Euro 2000. Tonight's financial figures: the FTSE 100 index closed down 27 points. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones was down over 49 points, and the pound was up 0.75% against the dollar. Now look at tomorrow's papers. The Daily Telegraph says Tony Blair risks a backlash from motorists over the new road tolls announced today, which have already been dubbed a poll tax on wheels. The main photograph is of Cherie Blair and the Deputy Prime Minister's wife, Pauline Prescott, watching the Queen's speech. The Daily Mail too leads with the charges on motorists and accuses Tony Blair of declaring war on the car. It also shows the murdered schoolgirl Caroline Dickinson, whose mother is suing her local education authority for negligence. The Times reports on what it calls Ken Livingston's U-turn in the battle to become Labour's candidate for London Mayor. It claims he's now willing to accept the party's manifesto, even if it includes plans to sell off the tube. The Guardian leads on Labour's mayor crisis. Frank Dobson, it says, has warned Tony Blair he'll quit unless Ken Livingston is allowed to stand. It shows a sea of English fans at Wembley for the Euro 2000 playoff. And the Mirror expresses the feelings of thousands of football fans south of the border as England scraped through to the Euro 2000 championships despite tonight's defeat by Scotland. And that's it for tonight. The ITV Evening News is at 6:30 tomorrow, and we're back at 11. From all the ITV Nightly News team, goodbye.
Good evening. 3 different types of cold weather across Britain tonight. As you can see on the satellite picture, in the west there's general cloud, there are outbreaks of rain, drizzle, even sleet on the hills. Some good clear periods in central parts there, and the speckled pattern in the cloud there, there's the showers down the east coast. So if you're planning to watch the meteors tonight, you're up against it in the southwest. There'll be a lot of cloud there, generally cloudy skies, long clear periods in central areas, and some good clear spells too in between the showers in the east. Generally then tonight is a cold night, a widespread frost, wintry showers around, and the risk of some icy patches, especially in the north there, as the rain slowly clears late in the night. As for tomorrow, the old weather front's still around in the south, so a cloudy start to the day there, still some spots of rain, drizzle and sleet perhaps, all moving away pretty quickly through the morning to leave the rest of the day with lots of sunny spells, but lots of showers for eastern counties too. As for temperatures, it's going to feel cold everywhere tomorrow, typically around 7 degrees, but when you add on the effect of the wind chill temperatures are well below that, especially in the east with those very strong winds, as you see, typically feeling around -4, so a wintry day. Good night.
Power Gen. Power, whatever the weather.
The law and the lawless.
We waste him.
Are closing in.
Agreed.
On Neil Byrne. Extremely Dangerous. Thursday at 9 on ITV.
Buy one pair of Boots brand spectacles with scratch-resistant lenses, then choose another pair absolutely free. What a choice from Boots Opticians.
Oh, come on, Dad.
Okay, Samantha, when you're ready. Straight over at the roundabout. Now, let's try reversing, shall we? Feels a bit steep. Brake, Samantha, brake!
What are you gasping for, Dad?
I'm gasping for my pyramids.
Only Brook Bond have the unique pyramid bag that gives the leaves room to infuse, releasing all the great PG taste Jeff needs to get him back on the road.
So where are you driving me next, Samantha? Round a bend?
For centuries, the citizens of Ciabatta had fought the citizens of pizza. Until one day, 2 men changed history.
But I like a ciabatta. And I like a pizza.
And so the Treaty of Ciabatta was formed, and is still celebrated today with a dish of light ciabatta bread with pizza topping. And what did Birdseye do when they heard this delightful idea?
The rascals nicked it. Jeffrey, we need up-to-date information about our competitors.
Yeah. I agree. I could do with some decent company briefs. Absolutely.
FT.com completely mad about business.
Carmen Beatty and her boys are back with their floral duvet cover to express their joy at Iceland's biggest and best ever chicken giveaway.
Buy an Iceland chicken for an amazing $4.99 and get this, and this
absolutely free, worth $3.97.